If you've ever walked into a home with perfect symmetry, elegant ornamentation, and a commanding presence, chances are it was a Georgian Colonial. But what exactly defines this architectural style? And more importantly, as a real estate professional, how can you identify one? In this video, I'm going to be focusing purely on Georgian Colonials and teach you all the exterior and interior features that identify homes as a Georgian Colonial. And make sure you stick around to the end where we've got a fun quiz to test your knowledge. To understand Georgian homes, we need to go back to the 18th century, and the name Georgian actually refers to the 4 King Georges that ruled England from 1714 to 1830. And if you're familiar with Hamilton and you've seen King George come out and sing "You'll Be Back" to all the colonies that were rebelling on him, that was actually King George III, and he reigned from 1760 to 1820. As British influence shaped the colonies, so too did the architecture, and Georgian homes drew a lot of inspiration from the classical elements of symmetry, order, proportion, which originated in Greek and Roman architecture. But the Greek and Roman architecture was going through a massive resurgence in Europe during the 17th and 18th century. So let's take a look at how to instantly recognize a Georgian, starting on the exterior. The first thing you'll notice is the perfect symmetry. The front door is dead center, flanked by an equal number of windows on both sides, usually 5 across the top and a couple either side of the front door. Secondly, the siding. Now, in the northeast, you'll notice more Georgian Colonials are built with clapboard because wood was more plentiful, but in the mid-Atlantic and southern states, brick was more common due to the abundant clay deposits. So you'll notice a regional divide between kind of the siding materials that were used in the original Georgian homes. The third identifying feature of a Georgian Colonial is the roof, which is typically a side gabled roof with a moderate pitch. We're not seeing any dramatic slope like we typically see in the Tudor or the Victorian. So this roof just contributes to the home's stately and balanced appearance. Feature number 4 is the symmetrical chimneys. Now, this is a departure from the early colonials, the iteration of colonials before the Georgian, which had a very central chimney. Here we see the symmetrical chimneys on either side of the house, reinforcing the style's kind of perfect balance and symmetry. But the fireplaces were not just for aesthetics. Obviously, these were built before central heating existed, so fireplaces were in every room in the house, essential to keep the house fully heated during the cold winters. Feature number 5 is the large and multi-pane windows. Now, these were always double hung sashes, typically 6/6 or 9/9. So this was actually a practical choice because large window panes were extremely expensive and no one could afford those. So they used multiple small panes and kind of stuck them together. The final exterior feature to point out is the big entrance. Georgian Colonials celebrated the entrance. They had panelled doors with transoms above and pilasters either side. Later versions of the Georgians really became more elaborate, where they had columned porticos and pediments above. So they really celebrated and made a big deal of the entrance. Now that we've covered the exterior feature of a Georgian Colonial, I just want to spend a little bit longer and look at a couple more examples before we move on to the inside. First up, this beautiful white Georgian Colonial. So what exactly makes it Georgian? Well, it's got the classic white clapboard exterior, which we know many in the northeast were wooden sided versus brick in the southern states. And then it's got the very symmetrical windows and centre entrance. So you could literally draw a line down the middle of the house and flip it. It's so symmetrical, which, as we know, is a hallmark of the Georgian design, all about creating balance and proportion. Notice too, it has chimneys either side of the main body of the house. Okay, so what about this second one? What makes it Georgian? Again, the symmetry. We've got the very central front door with the perfect 5 windows above, and then the 2 either side on the bottom floor. The exterior is the classic red brick with white trim. It's got a side gabled roof, counterbalanced chimneys on either side of the home, panelled front door, and the entrance is framed by their decorative pilasters and a small portico, enhancing its stately appeal. Now let's step inside and see what makes a Georgian Colonial as instantly recognisable on the inside as it is on the outside. And by the way, if this is useful, please like and subscribe as a new channel. It helps me know that this information is really helpful and that I should continue or just forget it and go and watch TV. The most defining interior feature of a Georgian Colonial is the centre hall floor plan. So the grand commanding entrance would open into a grand central hall with a staircase that would go up to the second floor, and then either side of it you would either have the parlour, which was the formal living room on one side, and on the other side you would have the dining room, and then at the back you would have other rooms such as the library or the kitchen. The staircase within the central hall floor plan became the second interior feature of Georgian Colonials. They were always centrally located and became an architectural focal point. Now, the earlier Georgians were just kind of a straight staircase, but as the years went by and styles evolved, they became more and more elaborate. Sometimes the straight went up to a landing, which then turned up to the second floor. But what became more common was the very sweeping, gracefully curved staircase that was really very grand. Now, the staircases were made of fine hardwoods such as oak or mahogany, and you'd often have intricately carved newels going up the staircase along with wall panelling to just add even more detail and grandeur. Interior feature number 3 is fireplaces. Now, since Georgian Colonials predated central heating, fireplaces were essential and they were everywhere. There were typically one or two centrally positioned main fireplaces, symmetrically located at opposite ends of the house. Of course, you'd expect nothing less with a Georgian Colonial. And then there were smaller fireplaces in secondary rooms, such like the bedroom and the library. Now, just like the staircase that evolved over the years, so too did the fireplaces, and they became much more elaborate. So you saw kind of carved mantles, imported marble, and all sorts of pilasters and decoration around the fireplaces as the Georgians became more grand. Number 4, Georgians weren't overly ornate like a Victorian home, but they did have classical and refined ornamentation, particularly in the wealthier homes, because this was a way to display the wealth. So common elements that you might see on the interior of a Georgian Colonial are things like crown moulding and cornices, wainscoting and wall panelling, panelled doors, built-in cabinetry, and decorative plasterwork. For example, ceiling medallions. Also, arches and columns were very popular as well. Feature number 5 was high ceilings and spacious rooms. So as part of the gracious living of the Georgian Colonials, the rooms were big, and the ceilings, particularly in the formal areas, were around 10 to 12 feet high. So this had two purposes. One, it obviously contributed to the grandeur of the Georgians, but it also allowed for large windows which let in lots of natural light, essential before the days of electric lighting. Interior feature number 6 is the wide plank hardwood flooring, which was typically made of oak, pine or chestnut. Now, the wealthier homes may have gone a bit grander and installed intricate parquet designs in the grand central hall or in certain rooms such as the dining room or the living room. And finally, lighting. Since the early Georgians were built before electricity, candles, sconces and chandeliers would have provided the illumination. In the grand entrance hall and also the dining room, you probably would have had a big brass or crystal chandelier, but elsewhere throughout the rest of the home, wall-mounted sconces or lanterns would have lit the way. Okay, so by now you should have a really strong understanding of what makes a Georgian Colonial and how to identify one, but we're now going to put that to the test. There are going to be 8 questions. You are going to have a few seconds to shout out your answer, and then the answer is going to be revealed. So make sure you play along at home. Okay, question number 1. When were the original Georgian Colonials built? Was it A, the 1600s to the 1700s, B, 1700s to the 1800s, or C, 1800s to the 1900s? And the correct answer is B, 1700s to 1800s. Number 2, what's a defining exterior feature of a Georgian colonial? A, asymmetrical windows. B, a central front door with symmetrical windows. Or C, a wraparound porch. And of course, the correct answer is B, a central front door with symmetrical windows. Question number 3, how can you tell a home's interior layout is Georgian Colonial? A, a centre hall floor plan with rooms on either side. B, open concept with a central kitchen. Or C, a large great room without formal spaces. And the correct answer is A, a centre hall floor plan with rooms on either side. Question number 4, which type of roof is most common on a Georgian colonial home? A, a mansard. B, a flat roof. Or C, a side gable. And the correct answer is C, a side gabled roof. Number 5, what is a common feature of a Georgian colonial staircase? A, centrally placed, often curved with wooden balustrades. B, spiral staircase with metal railings. Or C, open concept floating stairs. And the correct answer is A, centrally placed, often curved with wooden balustrades. Question number 6, which of the following is a typical feature of a Georgian colonial ceiling? A, low ceilings with exposed beams. B, vaulted ceilings with skylights. Or C, high ceilings, often 10 to 12 feet with decorative moulding. And the correct answer is C, high ceilings, often 10 to 12 feet with decorative mouldings. Number 7, where is the fireplace usually located in a Georgian colonial home? A, asymmetrically placed for aesthetic variation. B, in nearly every room, often symmetrically positioned. Or C, only in the kitchen for cooking purposes. And the correct answer is B, in nearly every room, often symmetrically positioned. Finally, last question, which type of lighting fixture is most commonly found in Georgian colonial dining rooms? A, recessed LED lighting. B, large brass or crystal chandeliers. Or C, industrial style pendant lights. And the correct answer is, of course, B, large brass or crystal chandeliers. So how did you do? I hope you did well. Let me know in the comments. If you're interested in finding out about the other colonials, check out my videos on early colonials, federal and Dutch colonial. I'll leave links here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.